Now let's talk about what you can do. So at the beginning, I told you that we want to see if we can manage this or not. So as you have heard this, might have heard this before, they tell you that diabetes is a condition that cannot be cured. It's a genetic problem. You get this problem because someone in your family had this problem. So if you have some close relative that has diabetes, type 1, 2, or whatever, and you get diabetes, that means that it's in your genes, and then you're doomed. There is no escape for you. And that's wrong. Okay. So, as we have spoken about this, you can you can do things to not get diabetes, and then you can do things to reverse diabetes. Okay. So it's different for type 1 and type 2. For type 1, it means that the pancreas doesn't produce enough insulin. And that means that there are some damages done to the pancreas. And if the damage is permanent, which is usually are, or if you have a genetic problem that you cannot produce, that's a natural thing that is happening in the body, you cannot produce insulin enough. Okay, so that's the only condition that you need to use exogenous insulin, like use those pens or pills or whatever, okay, to take some insulin. Okay, so, but if you have diabetes type 2, it means that your body is capable of producing enough insulin in the body, but you're doing something bad with your lifestyle to the body that level of insulin is not enough. Okay, so your body is resistant to that and it's not listening to all of the problems that we just talked about. So you can change that lifestyle, you can change the diet to make the body to listen to lower level of insulin. Okay, so that type 2 diabetes is very different. You can fix the problem, you can better the condition very rapidly, very soon. So let me give you a fact. That insulin resistance in the liver that I told you, that your uh, liver gets fatty, you get fatty liver disease, non-alcoholic fatty liver disease, because you have consumed a lot of carbohydrates for a long time, a lot of sugars in your food. That condition can get better in 2 weeks by 50%. So 50% of the fat in the liver can go away in 2 weeks, only 2 weeks. So they have done researches on this, and this is proved. So by fixing your lifestyle only for 2 weeks, you can heal 50% of your liver, and you can rescue your liver of insulin resistance, at least 50% of it. Okay, and you can continue that. And there are case reports that people have done, like they've changed their lifestyle for 2 months, 3 months, and they've reversed type 2 diabetes completely. So they've put the disease into remission fully after a couple of months, 3 months, and something like that. And it doesn't come back. So as long as you keep your lifestyle healthy and you have a good diet and lifestyle, which is natural to the human body, the disease doesn't come back. Okay, so you can fix type 2 diabetes for sure, but it's not something that you can do it whenever you like. You need to do it as soon as possible, because if the damage is to some parts of the body, the damage because of the high blood sugar and high blood insulin is to some parts of the body that cannot be reversed and healed. So liver is a good one because it can heal very fast. But if the damage is into some other parts of the body, the reversing process is much harder and sometimes not possible. Okay, so there is always hope, and even severe cases can be reversed a lot. But do it sooner. It's not an excuse to say, oh, okay, every time that I can make this decision and I can reverse this and stuff like that. Therefore, I don't need to do it today. I can do it tomorrow. No, you need to do it today to avoid those situations that is irreversible. Okay. So this is about type 2 diabetes, but we can use the same concept for type 1 diabetes as well. So if you have this genetic predisposition that you cannot produce enough insulin, or your pancreas gets damaged in your adulthood and you cannot produce insulin anyway, you can change your lifestyle in a way that you don't need as much insulin. Okay, so maybe a um, a minor shot in the morning of insulin is enough for you to go about your day. So you don't need frequent shots every meal, before meal, after meal, and stuff like that. How you can do that? By going into a ketosis state. We explain what that is. By by letting your body to use fat as its main fuel. By letting the body to stop forcing all of the cells in the body to use up more sugar, and to force the cells to ignore the fat, the available fat as a fuel, and start using sugar. Okay. So if you don't need that insulin to command the cell to use the fuel, and it can use the fuel without the command, without insulin, then you don't need as much insulin. But these are for type 1 diabetes, especially. You need to do this with your doctor, okay? So because the level of the insulin that you give yourself, that you take in, is very important. So you need to work very closely with your physician. Okay, so let's go uh, about what you can do. So you can change your food, okay? You can limit the amount of carbohydrates that you take in to make your body to use fuel, fat as fuel. So what do we mean by limit the carbs? Like avoid high carb foods like bread, pasta, biscuit, honey, uh, sugary foods, ultra processed foods, and stuff like that. Okay, that have a lot of sugar in it. Uh, so how low you should go? So to be in a ketosis state, they tell you that you need to be below 50 grams of carb in your diet, and that's total carbs. We're talking about total carb, and it means every carbohydrate type in the food. But they're telling, so they sometimes they're confusing that with the net carb. Net carb is the amount of carb of the food minus the fiber that your body cannot absorb. If you're talking about the net carb, that net carb should be below 30 grams. Okay, and that's when you want to stay in ketosis and stuff like that. But if you're having diabetes type 2 or type 1, if you're reversing a condition, insulin resistant condition, you need to go even lower, below 20 gram, and or maybe as close as to zero, even the net carb. So the net carb of the food should be as low as possible to reverse this problem. And then when you fix that problem, and by all of those tests, blood tests that we talked about, like the home IR and stuff, you realize that you're feeling good. If you decide to have more carbohydrates, then you can. But usually people don't do that because you feel so good that you don't want to go back to that. So when you limit your carbohydrates, you need to eat something. What are you replacing that with? We've talked about it. You replace that with fat. And by fat, I don't mean seed oils. Okay? We have talked about that. Seed oils directly and indirectly cause insulin resistance. Okay? So we don't want to consume any seed oil, safflower oil, sunflower oil, I don't know, vegetable oils. And if every other seed oil that is available to the market. Okay, so we don't want to consume those. We don't want to consume any product that is made by those. We don't want to go to the restaurants that cook the food using those oils. Okay, those are bad. So every other type of oil other than seed oil is usually good, like um, animal fats, animal products like dairy, butter, ghee is the best. Um, Tallow, lard, things like that. Okay, the beef fat, lamb fat, and stuff like that. So olive oil. Fruit oils, not the seed oils, like avocado oil. Those are good fats. Uh, the egg yolk, the fat that is in the egg yolk, fatty fish, things like that. Okay, so those are good fats. Consume a lot of those and replace the carbohydrates with those. And by fat, I don't mean trans fat either. So trans fats are bad and they're banned in many countries, so they're not allowed to be used in the food, but they're still using them in some restaurants and in some ultra processed foods because they are banned, but I think there is a minimum level that they can use, like it's 0.5% or something like that, and they still are using it in some. So the best thing is to avoid ultra processed food at all costs. Okay, the packaged food, we talked about that. Go back to that video and what sort of food that's best for the body. Use those concepts. We don't want to eat anything that has a lot of ingredients that we don't understand what they are. Okay, so limit the carbs, increase the fat, good fats. And then what else you can increase when you're limiting the carb? Because you're limiting your intake and you have room to increase other things. Increase the protein as well. Protein is a um, necessary ingredient, necessary food for the body. Not because you want to build muscle, because it is required for thousands of different processes in the body. So your metabolisms and that is breaking down things and building up things. It requires protein to do almost everything that is in the body. All the processes they require protein to do something, creating enzymes, creating hormones. Some hormones are created of protein. And fun fact for you, there is no hormone that is created out of carbohydrates in the body. As you know, I've talked about this many times. Carbohydrates is not essential to human body. Okay, so we don't have essential carbs, but we have essential fats and we have essential amino acids, the building blocks of protein. We have hormones that are created based on fat that you eat, and we have hormones that are created based on protein and amino acids that you eat. But we don't have hormones that are based on carbs. So limit those, increase fat and protein. What sort of proteins that you want? You want natural form. Okay, so get natural forms. Don't go for powders and boxes of proteins or bars of protein bars and stuff like that. They add extra things. Just read the ingredients of that. They're horrible. They add chemicals. They add sweeteners to them. They add flavors, and they call it natural flavors sometimes, but it's not natural. It doesn't mean anything. It's not in a natural form. Okay, it's everything that they make is coming from nature. Okay, so they're combining different things, and it's coming from nature, but you cannot call it natural. If a raspberry flavor is coming out of a powder, it doesn't mean that it's natural. It's coming from raspberry, but they have done things to it. So they denatured that. Okay. So go for the natural form. What is the best form? The best bioavailable form of protein for the human body is animal sources of protein, eggs, beef, lamb, chicken, fish, and stuff like that. And then other natural forms are like um, avocado, almond, um, pistachio, and things like that as well. Okay, so you can eat different sources of protein, but the most bioavailable ones are the animal sources of protein. But by any means, use every form of protein that you like, only if it's natural and unsweetened, unflavored, and not ultra processed. So it's not coming as a package or as a bar or in a box with a food label with a long list of ingredients. Okay. And then something very powerful that you can do. So change your diet in a way that I just explained. But remember the fact that I told you that every time that you eat, your body has an insulin response to that eating. Okay. So another thing that you can do alongside with changing your diet to limit the carbohydrate and increase the fat and protein is to restrict the eating window. What do I mean by that? Some people call it intermittent fasting, which is not 100% accurate. Intermittent fasting means sometimes you fast, meaning you don't eat, you don't ingest anything, and sometimes you eat, which is not 100% accurate, and it's not the thing that I mean. I mean to restrict your eating window. So traditionally, we think that the most important meal of the day is breakfast, and we need to eat once we wake up because we need energy for the body and we need to do our things. And then we need to have another thing, another meal at lunch, and then we need to have another meal at dinner. I know, but not to provide our body with the energy that it requires. And we need to have snacks as well. Okay. So, and those snacks are necessary because your blood sugar comes down and we need to provide it with some food to bring the blood sugar high and stuff like that. So because the brain needs fuel. But by now, you know that that's not accurate. And your body doesn't require the carbohydrate intake and it doesn't require that much of blood sugar. So what you can do is you can restrict that window of eating instead of 16 hour of eating to maybe 8 hour of eating, 4 hour of eating. So how can you do that? I will have other videos to explain the methods and the ways that you can go about this, but very quickly, you can, for example, skip a meal, like your breakfast. So you are fasted through the night because you've been sleeping. Uh, Usually we don't eat when we sleep. So 8 hours of sleep, let's say that you're um, in a fasted state for 8 hours. Let's say we don't eat 2 hours before that. That's 10 hours of fasting. And then let's say we skip the breakfast, which is giving you another 3, 4, 5 hours. So you will be in in a fasted state for around 15, 16 hours, which is enough to give your body some rest to bring down the insulin level. Okay, so it doesn't need to pump the insulin so often, and it gives the rest of the body to reduce that resistance that it has built up against that high blood level of insulin. Okay, so restrict the eating window by skipping a meal like breakfast or dinner, something like that. Try to have your meals close to each other and then skip the snacking. So don't snack. Okay, have your proper meal like with a lot of natural food, high fatty, high protein meals, limited carbs, but a full meal. Just have that. Don't snack anything and then have another meal a few hours later. Just close them together, just have them very close to each other, like in a few hours. Then give your body chance to heal itself for the rest of the day. Okay, that's very important. So together, the diet that you have and the eating windows that you have is very powerful, and those go together very well. So, um, and what else you can do? You can avoid stress and you can do exercise. What do they do for you? Every time that you have a stress, you have a blood sugar response to that stress because your body thinks that something bad is happening. I need to produce some fast energy to the body, and produce some blood sugar, and the response to that blood sugar is high insulin as well. Okay, so avoid stress. How you can avoid stress in these days? It's hard. You get bad news. You get stress from the work, pressure, and stuff like that. And bad things, disasters happens in life. But you need to exercise to make your body to be stronger in responding to stress. Okay, so you calm down the body by exercising, by just going and walking, by doing some yoga, by doing some activity, by working on some physical work. Okay, by doing that, you're just lowering the stress level down, and then you're forcing your body to use up the extra blood sugar in your bloodstream. So without insulin, exercise forces your body to use up the blood sugar. Okay. So when you're doing exercise, you're doing two good things. First, you're lowering down the stress in the body, which lowers down the uh, blood sugar naturally. And then you're using up that extra level of blood sugar that you might have in the bloodstream. Okay. So avoid the stress, do exercise, have good sleep, and all of these things together can fix the problems in a few months. Okay. As I told you that there are case reports that people have fixed their diabetes type 2 in 2 months or 3 months. Okay. There are a lot of cases like that. Okay. I hope that you've used this episode. And I know it was a long one, so I'll try to wrap it up here. I know that there are a lot of points that you want me to go into details, and I will have videos about those, like things like insulin resistance, restricted window of eating, um, seed oils, and stuff like that. I will talk about those later on in the future videos, but I hope that this is useful for you if you have diabetes or if you have someone who has diabetes. Share this video with them, and next time that you're talking to your physician, to your doctor, uh, and you're asking for advice from them, have this knowledge and information, use it to make your life better. The interventions that you want to do in your life, just do it wisely. Okay. Until next time, let's focus on hope and wellness.